My name is Kim Bergman, and I'm a licensed psychologist in the United States. I'm also a lesbian mom through assisted reproduction. And I'm going to talk about a few specific psychological aspects of the surrogacy process. The surrogacy, the way that all of us up here and all the people around this room do surrogacy, it's a very transparent and collaborative effort between a whole bunch of people. A surrogate, a donor, an agency, a doctor, a lawyer, insurance, a travel agent, the surrogate's husband or family, your family. So surrogacy is really a collaboration between a bunch of people who started out not knowing each other, all for the goal of helping you become a parent. What's paramount from a psychological perspective for both you and your surrogate is to have a measure of trust as a foundation in that relationship. It's not blind trust, but it is trust, as you will likely have your baby thousands of miles away, and you won't have a lot of control, active control. So trust is extremely important for all of the parties. The other thing that's really important is communication. Surrogacy is meant to be transparent, and part of what Steve talked about in the low risk to surrogacy is because of the transparency. It's actually a relationship. It's not a business transaction, not in the way that we do it. And it is meant to be a relationship between you and your surrogate. And you can define that relationship any way that you mutually agree, but what's important is to mutually agree. So we do a match meeting. Again, all of us operate much the same way. We do a match meeting where you meet your surrogate and you talk in advance about all of the things that can be difficult later, like your preferences for your relationship, your preferences medically. What will you do if something's wrong with the baby? What will you do if you're pregnant with triplets and you don't want triplets? We manage the relationship by starting with everybody having their expectations out on the table. Now, of course, we're humans, so things change and there's fluidity. And that's actually the third ingredient from a psychological perspective that makes this journey successful. Flexibility. It's not a linear procedure by any means, and there are many unknowns. You do want to minimize the risks with those unknowns, and you can do that by creating your team of experts, people who know what they're doing, so that you do start out legally and medically and in all other ways as protected as you can be, because no matter how much those aspects of surrogacy are controlled, there's a whole other aspect called, nature, or I don't know, God, or medicine, or the miracle of life, or whatever it is that you believe in, that is going to be out of all of our control. So trust, communication, flexibility, really, really important. Setting and managing expectations. And the last thing that's important in a relationship is obviously mutual respect with you and your teammates. Everybody on your team is important, but clearly your future child's best interest is paramount, and then your interest, the surrogate's interest, and the donor's interest are going to be the core of that collaborative effort. One of the ways that we can minimize problems occurring is in the screening process. John and Steve and Michael all spoke about screening from those varying perspectives. I'm going to talk about it from a psychological perspective for just a moment. This is a place where you really want to make sure, as with the other areas of screening, that you do not cut a corner. Your surrogate needs to be screened psychologically, as does your donor, for a number of different things. For one thing, just obviously to rule out any kind of mental illness or mental issues that are going to interfere with the process. And then secondly, to screen and examine her motivation and her expectations. You don't want a surrogate who expects that she's the mother from afar, because that's not what a surrogate is. Surrogate is a carrier. And you can have a fantastic relationship with your surrogate, and she can be a very special person in the life of your child, as can the donor. But the roles are very clear, and you want, in the screening, those roles are really clearly defined and screened. So part of the screening process is an educational process. What surrogacy is and what it isn't. It isn't for everybody. As I think John mentioned, hundreds of people attempt to be surrogates, and most of the agencies in this room, probably all of us, and the medical facilities in this room, probably accept, a fraction of the surrogates who apply to our programs, because being well-meaning and well-intentioned is not enough. It's a rare person who can actually do it, and for those people who get through the screening and can actually do it, they do it beautifully and seamlessly and with an amazing grace and patience and commitment. But that is not something that everybody can do. It's a really specialized thing to be able to do, and you want to make sure that the surrogate is really well screened. The future relationship of your surrogate or your donor to you is something that's going to be unique to you, and it will be something that you set up some clear parameters at the beginning, but also allow to grow organically. If you all know at the outset what you're hoping for, and you treat each other with respect, and you're committed to the process, then your relationship will develop in an organic way, and at the end you will mutually decide, are you going to stay in contact? Are you going to be good friends? Is the surrogate going to be like a godmother? Are you going to love her and thank her and send her annual Christmas cards? Are you never going to see her again? Is she never going to see you again? It's something that's very personal, and there really is no right or wrong way as long as all of the parties are on the same page. So transparency and collaborative approach are really keys. The one thing I want to say, and I would have talked about surrogates changing their mind, but you did such a great job, because it really doesn't happen at all in any of our practices here. But to the extent that you're all, that there is a collaboration, and that we all understand that surrogacy is not about loss. It's not about a surrogate giving something up. It's about a surrogate collaborating with you to do something that must be done in collaboration in order for you to have a biological child. And for those surrogates for whom it's a calling, it is a beautiful and seamless and utterly risk-free from a psychological perspective, from a legal perspective, and even from a medical perspective. We can manage many of the unknowns and many of the risks. And the surrogates that do go on and become actual surrogates, you will find that you're in wonderfully good